Hello, this is John from caveofprogramming.com, and in this tutorial we're going to look at saving the contents of this edit text window to a file. So there are various ways you can save data in Android. You can save data to the internal storage of the phone. You can save data to external storage like an SD card if it's present. You can save preferences via a preference system that allows you to save small amounts of data, and you can also save stuff in a database. And in this particular tutorial we're just going to look at writing to internal storage. So the first thing I need to do here is I need to actually get this edit text control and get the text from it when this save button is clicked. So to do that I'm going to go to my activity main here. And so here's my edit text control, and one thing I want to do actually is because I plan to write to internal storage, I don't want to write a lot of data there, so I'm going to just limit the max length of this text control to a relatively small number of characters. Let's say maybe I don't know, really 400 characters. So better to have some max length on it than none at all if we're going to save to internal storage. And the second thing I need to do, more importantly really, is I need to give this edit text an ID, just like the button here, so that we can refer to it later. So I type ID and use the autocomplete, and here I want to say @ plus ID. So we always need this @ and the plus to say that it's a new ID that I'm defining, and the ID to say that it's going to be an ID. And let's just call this text. Now back in my main activity here, when the save button's clicked, I can get the text from the edit control. So I'm going to use the same mechanism that I use to get a handle on the button. I'm going to use find view by ID because the edit text is just another kind of view, and I'll say r.id dot and the ID that I specified, which was text, and of course I need to cast that to a edit text, so I'll say edit text, let's call it edit text equals, and I'll cast the return value of find view by ID to an edit text control. So now we can get the text from it. I'll say string text equals edit text dot get text. There we go. And let's check that we've actually got the oh yeah, I actually need to do this getText method. Actually returns some kind of thing that implements an editable interface, and I think it's an interface, and you basically just need to do toString on it to get the actual string value. So now we've got that, let's check that we're actually getting the text from it. So here in my debug message here, I'm just going to append that text here so that we can check that it's working. And I'll start the application, and let's check everything looks okay here, as it does, and I'll switch to DDMS view, and so I've got my filtered output here, and let's just go here, and when my application launches I will enter some text and then click the save button. So here we go, and let's click in there and just enter something. Here we go, and then let's have a new line in here as well, see what that does. And I'll dismiss the keyboard and click save, and we've got a new debug line here, and we're just seeing MMM. And I think actually the oh yeah, there we go, we've got RRR, and definitely at least one new line in MMM, which is what I typed in my emulator. So of course the view down here is not going to be exactly representative of what you see in the edit control, but that's enough to convince me that it's basically working. So now I'm going to save this text to a file, and to do that I'm going to use a method called open file output. So this is pretty intuitive, and a lot of dealing with files in Android is just standard Java, but there's just this little quirk that we need to get. We need to get the file using this open file output. Well, this is one way of doing it anyway. And let's create a constant for the file name up here. So I'll say public static final string file name equals, or maybe I'll call this text file equals, and let's just call it, well, my application I've called note squirrel, so let's call it note squirrel dot text. That should do the trick. And so I'm going to save. To this. I've already forgotten what I just called that. Actually, I just called it text file. Okay, so I'm going to save to text file. And for mode, you can specify. If you type context.m, there's a bunch of different modes here, and I'm going to set this to mode private rather than world readable or anything like that. And that, although you probably won't want to trust this for like data that absolutely must be secure under all circumstances. But the idea is that only your application can read this text if you have the private mode set here, and not even the user can read it via some other means. But if someone gets hold of your phone and they know what they're doing, I'm sure they could hack into that file. But this is good enough for this application. And now that returns a, well, let's handle the exception actually. So I'll just surround with a try catch. Whoops, what did I do? I didn't mean to do that. But yeah, it returns a file output stream, but I want to surround it with a try catch. There we go. And I'll just catch any exceptions that come from what I'm about to do. So I'll just change that to from file not found exception to exception. And let's call this FOS for short. Now to write to this file output stream, we just need to call a method FOS.write .write. I think this will do the trick. In fact, yeah, I think that's the one. And so yeah, I want to, and this has to, the argument to this is an array of bytes, but we can get that from the string. If I just say text dot get bytes like this, so get bytes returns a byte array, so that should do the trick. And we mustn't forget to close the file, so I'll say fos.close like that, and that's all you need to do to write to the file. Now I'm gonna just put some debug output here, so I'm pretty sure now that the save button's working and I'm getting the text from the edit control. So I'm going to remove that debug line and I'm going to paste it here and change it a little bit. I'm going to change this to unable to save file. So if it throws an exception, then we will see this message, and yeah, that should be okay. So let's try that, and we're not going to see anything really happen in this particular tutorial, but we're going to move on and read this file that we've created very shortly. And also, I mean, this isn't a good way, obviously, of telling the user that the file can't be saved, but we'll fix that subsequently and have a nice error message for the user. But that's all there is to saving files to the internal storage. So let's just run this, and we're just going to check that that the application deploys and starts okay, and that there's no error message, that we don't see this error message. So it says installing, and if we wait just a second, hopefully success. And let's go to DDMS view and go to my emulator here, and I'll click in here, and now I'm just going to enter some text. So in fact, let's enter something meaningful, because we're going to display this shortly when we read the file back. So I'll say hello, hello. It's a bit slow. Well, actually it's very slow, but you just sort of have to live with that really. It is quite slow because you're running basically an operating system within an operating system. Okay, so and then I'll say here how space or space you. And in the next tutorial we will look at reading this file back. So I think that'll do the trick. Is this a question mark? I'm not sure. There we go. So if I hold this down, there's the question mark. There we go. Okay, so that's enough for this tutorial. Oh yeah, I forgot to click save. That's the important bit. So let's just dismiss the keyboard and click save. So the button clicked, and we've got nothing bad happening down here. So I assume that's worked, and we'll move on to reading that file next time. Okay, so until next time, happy coding.